So before we get to actually building the site, we want to decide on a couple of things. What font are we going to use? We need to do some image prep work for photos on the page, as well as icons that we will need, and knowing what our container width is, what the padding is between columns. It would help us with our plan of building the site. So the first topic is deciding the font family. If I click on this heading, this welcome text, I see that it is this font called Larsate. It's bold, and I know that this is not a web font, and we want to use web fonts because it will help with page speed. So in this day and age, if your site is slow, it's going to test the patience of your user, and your user may drop, and they may just leave your site before it even loads. So as much as possible, we want to build up the site with using as little resources as possible to load the site, so that depending on the user's internet speed, it won't interrupt their experience too much, and we can get our information across to them. So you could, if the designer is insistent on using this font family, yes, you could convert this to a web font. Font Squirrel has a good web font converter. However, they do have blacklists. So if the font comes up as on the blacklist, then they won't convert it to you. So this is fontsquirrel.com. Go to generator. You can upload the font. You would need to upload each weight. So if this this design is using bold, it's also using medium, it's also using regular, so you would need to upload it 3 times at least to convert it. And the conversion, usually you get 2 or up to 4 different types of files. It depends on on your configuration and what they provide. But each file that you load is using up resources. And then you also need to note italic. So sometimes if the site, well, this is using Helvetica, so you don't need to load a specific font. But if this summary text, we're using specialized font, and in the text editor, it has some italic or bold. Oh yes. Anyway, every weight, every style is another font file that is converted to up to 2 or 4 files. So if you have multiple weights and multiple families on your site, it's going to take up a lot of resources. So I generally just use a Google web font alternative. You can just search for free Google web font alternative and then copy paste the font family name. And I've worked with this font before, and I found that Lato by Google Fonts is quite similar, so I go with this one. And if you're not sure how close the font is to the design, you can always just you could download the family, install the font if you don't already have it, and then I will hit Command J on this layer to duplicate this text. Just going to move it up, and while still having it selected, I will choose Lato bold, and I can take a look. It looks okay. If I do heavy, it's even closer. So I might go with heavy, but this also depends. In Photoshop, heavy may look quite good, but then when you load it on the web, heavy may look too heavy. So you need to eyeball it. But first, make a plan. Maybe don't decide on heavy yet, so you don't add extra CSS that you will need to remove later on. So yes, I will make a note of, for example, this is my Sublime text editor. I will do 5659.5. Just going to put this out of the window. So I'm just going to check all the elements that look like headings. So this one is medium. Is medium 500 or 600? It depends on the family. I'm gonna check what Google uses. Oh, Lato does not have a medium weight in Google Web Fonts. That's interesting. Sometimes you can get by if you decide you want to make the lightweight 300 to be regular of Larsate, and then 400 will be medium weight for Larsate. Bold, we haven't decided bold or heavy for the bold weight. But again, it takes eyeballing. But I will write down 400 for now, and then decide later on. Oops, 25.5 pixels. Let's see, testimony is 40. If it's something like 40, 25.5, I'll just do 40. It's also a medium, so this is also medium. 27, medium. So I'm just using pixels for the points. I mean the PT point. $56.5. For the line height, I'm not dropping below whatever the font size is, even though it's like that in the PSD file. 40? Okay, we have 40. And then 40, 40, 27. We have 27. 31. Yes. Oh, I forgot. I didn't pay attention to this one. Medium. Okay, I think that's most of the headings. Did I get this? 37. Oops. 40. Oh, I don't have 37. Okay. If the title will be very long and break into 2 lines, then the line height might need to be adjusted. But for now, I've used the same line height as the font size. So, okay, I have 6 here. These are actually similar. I may not... Oh, the weight is different. Yeah, it takes some eyeballing. These two are also similar. Actually, they're all kind of similar. But anyway, if you just want to go with this, this is how I would set up my headings. Oops. For example, you could do something like this, and then define, have different definitions on different pages. So if these heading styles are exclusive to the home page, then you can just put them on the home page CSS. If some of these fonts sizes are reused on subpages like the section or the article page, you can put them in a global CSS file so that you can define it just once, and it will be used later. I mean, in your code. I just want to note that actually, right, inherently this is font weight 700. You do not need to define this. It is there. However, I'm using this definition, font. It combines all of the properties so that if I define this, or rather like H2, right, I define the weight to be 400 here, then this is not going to apply for H2, for anywhere I define 400. If I delete this, if I just did font and then 56 pixels font size, 59.5 pixels line height, this is actually going to take on the weight 400. And the reason is because we're using this format. So if you don't, this format of defining the font, it combines the multiple properties of the font into one. And if you don't define the weight here, like 100, italic, the default is 400. This is the default, 400 normal, and then font size, and then line height. So if this is not defined, it will fall back to 400 and normal. So if you want to keep this font weight 700 without having to break it, right, then you need to break this up, 5 font size, line height, like that. And then anytime you're redefining the weight or style even, you need to define it, and then you can use this format so that it's fine. It's just a small detail. It's not a huge thing.